What's up, guys? Blade Master here, back with some more Total War Rome 2 online action. This is a replay that Blue sent me. This is a match between, this is round 2, a match between VoidDragon and Ziggomatic. Both of them are from the Sith clan, so it is an inter-clan civil war. And this is going to be really interesting because, as you can see, VoidDragon has taken Massagetae, or Massagetae, and Ziggomatic, on the other hand, has taken Lusitani. So the way the tournament works is the player at the bottom of the bracket gets the first choice in picking his faction. So Ziggomatic had the map choice and the faction choice, so he decided to take Lusitani. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put this on... I'm actually going to pause it because you can see there's some action going on already. So Ziggomatic decided to take Lusitani, which is not a very safe pick, but I can understand because the tournament was just starting. It's the early rounds of the tournament, second round still. So he decided to pick Lusitani, which on its own has some pretty decent strengths, but at the end of the day, not a very powerhouse faction. And he decided to bring that against VoidDragon, which is kind of a risk because VoidDragon is a very strong player. But he decided to take Bam Citadel, which is a really, really strange choice because Lusitani don't have any resistance to heat. So it's not like the heat is really going to play in their favor. And since he is since the only direction is north-south in the maps, he doesn't have a huge advantage in any case. I mean, there could be a slight downhill advantage in some of these cases. Actually, yeah, there's probably a pretty slight downhill advantage for Lusitani. But all in all, there's no big, advantage, especially considering that he doesn't have units that are resistant to heat. So he decided to take Lusitani, so a very ballsy pick and a very smart pick by VoidDragon, picking Massagetae, which are, of course, a nomadic faction and one of the few, factions, or one of the few times a nomadic faction can actually deal a ton of damage to another faction. So, with the nomads, Massagetae, let's take a look at what he's brought. I'm fairly certain he would have brought 4 Amazonian riders. He's only brought 2, so you can bring a maximum of 8 horse archers in this in the rules, according to the rules. So he's brought 3 mercenary Amazonian riders whom he's kept on his right. He's kept a couple of step horse archers in the center, some more step horse archers, so a total of 4 of them, and 1 armored horse archer with a single experience chevron. He's brought 3 step noble lancers. On his left flank, he's brought 3 more step noble lancers and some more Saka noble lancers. Very poor choice from VoidDragon, if I may say so, in terms of his shock cavalry, especially considering he's got Massagetae. They have access to Saka cataphracts, and it is almost a no-brainer bringing a mixture of Saka cataphracts and Saka armored lancers. That is the only units you should bring. I mean, against Lusitani, I guess it makes sense to bring more numbers rather than quality. But mixing a trample charge from Saka cataphracts, the only nomadic unit that has access to trample, mixing a trample charge from them with Draco, which the Saka Noble Armored Lancers have, is just such a deadly combination and can completely slaughter any sort of spear support that your opponent might bring. He's brought a total of 4 step archers along with them, which is a very smart choice, I think, because it doesn't matter if he brought Scythian hoplites or whatever the other few melee units that they had access to, not really going to make much of a difference. And I think bringing the archers against Lusitani in one is a very smart move, and second, it adds a huge dimension to your game because once the horse archers are done with their ammo, you can actually keep these step archers in reserve and then use them against the already depleted Lusitani units. Now, on the other hand, Ziggomatic has brought 1 Cantabrian Cav. He's brought another Cantabrian Cav as well that I saw in the faction loading screen. I can't really see where they are though. He's brought a total of 4 Scutari Cav and 1 Lusitani Noble General. Of course, the General is... he doesn't have any choice. He has to bring a Lusitani Noble General. And what VoidDragon should do right from the start of this game should be to attack the General at, even sacrificing 1 or 2 horse archers just to kill off that General would be smart because they are just so incredibly unarmored and none of these units are disciplined, so they would, lose faith. And that could be a huge turning point if he can gen snipe. He's also brought 1, 2, 3... What? 3 Iberian slingers and a couple of Balearic slingers. Not a smart decision, I think. Boy, he should have just brought 3 Balearic slingers or maybe 4 Balearic slingers instead. I mean, this is just going to be more units for him to protect against charges. And at the end of the day, they're not going to make too much. They won't kill off too many units. But against step horse archers, I guess they can probably do a pretty decent amount of damage. Here you can see the other Cantabrian Cav. As for his spear support, he's brought 1 Lusitani Gorilla, 1, 2, 4 Lusitani spearmen, and 5 Lusitani spearmen, and 1 more Lusitani guerrilla. So only a couple of Lusitani guerrillas and 5 Lusitani spearmen. Of course, there is a max of 8 of the same type of unit that you can bring. So in that sense, Lusitani are even more crippled against nomadic tribes. So it's going to be a huge task for Ziggomatic to try and win this game against Massagetae, which is just, it's going to be unbelievable. I mean, it should be a very, very entertaining match. It's going to last only for 8 minutes. Okay, I have a fairly certain idea of who's going to win this game. So yeah, I'm not even going to say it. I'll probably just spoil it for you guys. But whenever you see a short timer on a nomadic, when someone is playing as the nomads, it's usually bad news for the nomads. But I mean, it could be different in this case because against Lusitani you could afford to just go in for a straight charge. But that's the reason why. I mean, if Massagetae lose, I can already tell you why. It's because he brought so many of these steppe noble lancers. I mean, they're very good units. Of course, they're excellent units because they're nomadic shock units. But if he was going to keep three, first of all, if he was going to keep 3 separate lines of cavalry, separate lines of shock cavalry, he has to put one here. He should have just kept 1 Saka armored lancer behind each of these groups. I mean, he might do that after this, like once he's going to once he actually gets into combat, he could do that. But having 1 Saka armored lancer behind each of these groups and then popping Draco right when they're about to charge would not only reduce the bracing that these already poor like mass units have. It also reduces the cavalry bonus, which of course Lusitani spearmen are excellent aggressive anti-cav troops because they have very good melee attack and weapon damage on top of a base 20 bonus versus large and access to cavalry counter tactics. So they can completely slaughter cavalry, but using Draco against them would just completely shift the balance in your favor, I would say. So keeping a Saka armored lancer, the only cavalry troop that has access to Draco in Massagetae's roster, would be pretty essential. And if he doesn't do that, then it's going to be very, very tough for his armored lancers to do anything. Of course, Lusitani are an excellent unit on paper or excellent faction on paper to get some good charges in, but they have access to a ton of javelins. Granted, Ziggomatic has not brought many javelin throwing troops, so which is crazy. I mean, he should have brought at least 2 Iberian swordsmen. I mean, keep them behind your lines. I don't know why he didn't bring them, or at least more Lusitani guerrillas. Should have sacrificed some of the Iberian slingers for more guerrillas, I would say, because the Beleri slingers by themselves can take care of like Amazonian riders and all the rest. But actually, no, I mean, yeah, you always want to have a lot of slingers because they'll protect against those against your really unarmored Lusitani guerrillas. Probably should have brought some Scutari spearmen as well because they're the ones that have a lot of armor, and they can actually absorb some fire from arrows for sure, because I believe they have they have the really good shields that have pretty high missile blocking chance. Again, don't quote me on it, but it just from the looks of it, or from the way when I've played them, my experiences with them, they have pretty good shields. Like, they block missiles pretty well. But you can see these guerrillas are getting slaughtered because they have no armor. 15 armor is just nothing. They're gonna get slaughtered by mercenary Amazonian riders. I don't even think VoidDragon has put on heavy shot. Absolutely doesn't need to. Actually, the penalty to accuracy would hurt them more than help them, or then the extra damage would help them. And he's going to start, Ziggomatic is going to start charging in with the Scutari Cav. This is actually very good use of his mercenary Amazonians, killing off the Lusitani guerrillas who can actually do a ton of damage to the steppe shock cavalry with their javelins. He needs to move back with his archers, though. This is not good play, because on the one hand, actually this is a very smart pick of a map from Ziggomatic. He has a downhill advantage with his Iberian slingers. They will get a lot of kills on these steppe archers. Steppe archers are an excellent unit to bring, but they will get slaughtered against slinger fire because they have no armor. You can see only 10 armor. Look at how quickly they're getting slaughtered. He needs to pull them back. His army is so much more mobile than the Lusitani army that he absolutely doesn't need to trade volleys with his archers. He should be harassing Ziggomatic. He should be moving around with his armored archers and his regular archers. And here he's just going to completely overcommit with the steppe noble lancers here. Just, why are you doing this? He's engaging piecemeal with his step archer, with step noble lancers, which means they're going to get slaughtered by javelins. He is going to destroy the slinger line though, which is okay, which is a good trade-off, I'd say, but it's a bit too late in the game because a lot of these archers are completely depleted. He's going to pull back with these step noble lancers, but look at how quickly they're dying. These are some pretty expensive troops that are getting slaughtered. These step noble lancers have already got a single experience chevron, lost 10 units. This one has got 55 kills, lost a couple of units themselves. The Lusitani spearmen should be okay. The guerrillas are going to start throwing some jabs here. Scutari Cav charging in, not a good charge, I would say. He should let the Scutari okay. He should let the Lusitani guerrillas actually absorb the charge and then charge in with the Scutari Cav. The noble lancers over here are going to take a ton of friendly fire kills from the step archers. Here are some more noble lancers attacking the Lusitani spearmen. Let's see what the general is going to do. He has not popped Draco. Wow, just not using his cav very well. He's not popped Draco, and the Lusitani spearmen, they have their bonus they have their bracing, they have complete access to the bonus for his large 60 bonus. There we go, he's popped Draco now. Smart. And now the Scutari cavalry, which have a 15 bonus versus large themselves, have been dropped to only 5. You can see, ooh, wow, the Lusitani spearmen still have a 50 bonus versus large. Step noble lance is getting completely slaughtered. The general down to 38 units. This game is not going to go in VoidDragon's favor. He didn't help himself. He took some really poor engagements. The Lusitani noble general has got a lot of kills. The noble lancers are going to charge into them. They will take a lot of casualties in the process, but look at what VoidDragon is doing here. Just should be using his step archers to focus fire on the Lusitani nobles, which he's doing now. Look at how quickly they're dropping. This is exactly what he completely mismicroed with his horse archers, just chose not to engage with them. He should have been circling around with his cavalry in the first place. Although the hills and the valleys here really would play into Ziggomatic's favor. The Cantabrian Cav are usually a huge waste of money. And against a highly mobile army like this, I'm not really sure why Ziggomatic brought them in the first place. But it's not really going to matter. They're actually catching some of these step horse archers. Again, don't think that was a good unit pick from Ziggomatic. Didn't really need to bring them. They wouldn't do anything. They'd get slaughtered by horse archers. And even if they did get into some of the noble lancers, yeah, they would cause a lot of casualties for sure, but they would get slaughtered very, very easily. You can see the Amazonian riders wasting their ammo on some already retreating Lusitani spearmen. I understand that it's very tough to micro with the nomads, but really there's only so much that you can that you can allow the nomad player, like you can give the nomad player. I mean, when you're picking nomads, you expect to be on top of your micro game, otherwise you're not going to win. That being said, he took an excellent faction to counter Lusitani, and I'm really surprised he actually didn't do as well as he potentially could have. He had a decent army selection. Again, the fact that he didn't bring cataphracts is crazy. The fact that he didn't use Draco and didn't bring more Saka armored lancers is again crazy. He still could have won. He easily still could have won, but he engaged piecemeal, which is just the worst thing that you can do with nomads. Is engage piecemeal, especially against a faction where every second unit throws so many javelins that it's going to slaughter your units before they even get a chance to make an impact in the game. That being said, look at how well the step noble lancers have done. A double experience chevron on some of them, but the others have just gotten slaughtered. And also he made a huge mistake in letting his step archers engage with the Iberian slingers, which in turn forced him to engage with his cavalry too early. He should have instead taken his time. Patience is one of the key things that a nomad player has to have, especially when engaging any other non-nomadic faction. And because he used his step archers too early, he just forced the rest of his cavalry to just charge in straight ahead, which again is going to be suicide, especially when you have step noble lancers who themselves don't have great armor and obviously don't have any shields. The Lusitani nobles starting to take a lot of casualties here. He's popped headhunt, but again, not really going to make much of a difference. This game is done. There's still 12 seconds left. The armored horse archers getting 33 kills, killing off the Cantabrian Cav. But the Scutari cavalry coming there to support, and that is the end of this game. Pretty entertaining. It's a lot more entertaining than a regular nomad on non-nomadic faction matchup. But just to illustrate my point, I'm going to go ahead and go to custom battle, and this is what I would consider a really good Massagetae army. So the Saka Cataphracts with 90 armor, again not the greatest armor, but very good armor compared to step noble lancers who themselves have only 40. yes, they are very expensive, but there's really not much of a role that mid-tier shock cav really play, especially when you have cataphracts who have access to trample. But the point that I'm trying to make here is having a total of 6 elite tier shock cav, Saka Noble Armored Lancers with Draco, Saka Cataphracts with Trample, and then bringing the maximum of 8 cavalry that you can bring. So you just bring some cheap cavalry, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and yeah, 8. So now you have 5,680. You can obviously bring 4-step archers, which is going to be 1320. So 1320 minus this is what, like, so you're left with 4,360. 4,360, and then, which basically means that you have access to bringing maybe like 2 or 3 more Saka Cataphracts with some Saka Noble Armored Lances. Maybe trade off one of those step archers for some more Saka Cataphracts and Armored Lances. But the thing is, you should never really bring step Noble Lancers or step Armored Lances when you have access to these guys. Like, they're so good. They have access to Trample. That 68 charge bonus is actually lower than step Noble Lances, but with access to Trample and the fact that they're super heavy, that mass is just going to just slaughter any unit that comes into their that comes against them. The Saka Noble Armored Lancers are a very, very weird unit, because even though they cost more than Cataphracts, they are lower in mass. They have much better melee attack stats, but their charge bonus is lower, and they have slightly higher base morale. And they have, whoa, shit, they have 100 health compared to 120. So yeah, it is a very strange unit, but the fact that they have Draco just makes up for all of that. Again, Draco is not an ability that is very noob friendly. You have to pair it up with the right units, and you have to pair it up at the right time. Charging in right before the charge, if you pop Draco, is the best time, because then it would reduce the bracing of units as well. After charging, you can always pop Draco, which makes the enemy units lose their bonus versus cavalry, but it also has that penalty against bracing, which is why you should use it before the charge. So that's why I think, bringing 4 of these guys, 4 of Saka Cataphracts, bringing 4-step Saka Armored Lancers, and then using your horse cav, or sorry, your skirmish cav well, and the Lusitani faction wouldn't survive. They just wouldn't stand a chance. I'm so surprised how VoidDragon managed to lose this game. Anyways, guys, that's the end of this battle. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more. Peace.